Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Economic Forum. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga. As we continue to look at key issues around the COVID-19 pandemic, this week our focus is on alternative medicines and the indigenous belief system. Our guest is the president of the Zimbabwe National Traditional Healers Association, ZINATA, Mr. George KANDIERO. Sir, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe briefly, what does the ZINATA do?
ZINATA is an association which was established in 1981 for anyone who practices traditional medicine or uses alternative means to heal people. So we register from faith healers to bone casters to the general nganga, so to speak.
There's always been that assumption that ZINATA is only about traditional healing. What is it that we call traditional healing, if there's anything that is termed that?
Traditional healing is anything which is not the Western form of healing. You can be using water, you can be using herbs, you can be using even the spirit or the power that is within you. There are people who are spiritually gifted who can assist without even using any artifacts. So that is traditional healing. As per se, we are just saying traditional in the sense that it is our indigenous or our own form of healing which is found locally.
Now, before we talk about the pandemic, let's talk about ailments in general. There's always been the debate on the efficacy of indigenous medicines and the effectiveness thereof. If you are to rate the works of your association, how effective has it been in coming up with alternative medicine?
Well, generally, maybe people didn't know. Up to 85% of the average Zimbabwean uses traditional medicine for one reason or another. And you'd find that our health delivery system is actually divided into two. You've got the Western, which is, well, the clinics, the hospitals. But in remote areas such as, I'll give an example of Binga and places like that, you'd find that traditional practitioners are doing a lot of work. And I believe that 85% is quite a huge percentage. This is a survey which was done by WHO. We didn't carry out that survey. So I think we need to be applauded. We're doing quite it's not formalized. You know, people don't come out in the open to say that we're using traditional medicine. But a lot of people are getting assisted through this system.
Why is it not formalized if an international development partner like WHO does recognize that 85% of the population uses traditional medicine?
I think it's embedded in ourselves. The colonial era still has an impact on us, where anything that is indigenous is not good. But anything which is westernized or anything that comes from the West is what is recognized or what is acceptable. So I think it's our mindsets which need to change, where we are appreciated more by others than how we see ourselves.
By others, you mean other jurisdictions?
I'm talking about other countries. You'd find that we get a lot of inquiries, let's say from the UK, from the US, from Asia, where they are very interested in the flora that is within this country. Southern Africa, on its own, is very gifted when it comes to the flora. There are not so many plants that you'd find elsewhere in the world, and I think due to the climate that you find here, plants tend to come up with a lot of healing properties, as opposed to those. You can find that, a plant, the same plant, you can find it in Northern Africa, but it won't have the same properties as that one which is found in Southern Africa.
It's interesting that you talk about the diverse medicinal properties that is found within our flora. Why are we not telling the Zimbabwean story when it comes to alternative medicines?
Well, I think it is being told, because you'd appreciate, Tawanda, that most of our people reside in the rural areas. And within those settings, people still appreciate and still use traditional medicines to heal themselves. Others have this knowledge from their own families, not just from traditional practitioners, but it's embedded within their generation, where a lot of weeds, so to speak, that we step on, that we are rooting out to throw away, are actually medicines. You know, there are certain relishes that we use during maybe the raining season, which are very, very vital to the immune system of oneself. But I'm saying informally, people do appreciate that we've got herbals and that they do assist.
Talking about appreciation, the government, led of course by the Ministry of Health and Childcare, superintends the health delivery system. And you said it is divided into two, but have they recognized the works of alternative medicines, particularly indigenous medicines?
Yes, they have. Why do I say that? We've got an Act of Parliament, 2714 of 96. This is the revised one of the 1981 one. Look, if people have given us an Act of Parliament, that is quite a big achievement.
What does that Act of Parliament set to do?
Well, it's just recognition, to say what you're doing has been recognized by the government of Zimbabwe, and that is above board. We need to now give that information to practitioners who then join the association so that they abide by these rules and regulations which have been stipulated by government. So it is quite a comprehensive act, which then talks about the practice, about regulations, about what to do, what not to do, what happens in the case of certain regulations being breached, and so on. So in terms of practicality, I think more has to be done by government in terms of resources to incentivize these practitioners, because we've got a lot of knowledge within our people, and a lot of this knowledge is just dying out. You know, it's being stolen. I told you about the piracy that's going on. We've got people coming in, taking some of this knowledge, taking some of these herbs, going to replicate them in labs, where at the end of the day, we are not benefiting from that. So I think more has to be done from the top going down in recognizing that we've got rich, vast knowledge or resources in terms of traditional medicine and traditional healing. And I think more in terms of financial assistance needs to come in, because for anything to prosper, you need to put in a bit of resources.
Join us after the break as we continue our conversation in understanding alternative medicines as well as the indigenous belief system in Zimbabwe and its impact to the health delivery system. Join us there. COVID-19 has proven to be a wreck across the globe, and Africa, thank goodness, is still yet to see the devastation that is being experienced in other continents such as America, as well as the Europe and Asia. Now, this is the second segment of Economic Forum, and we are discussing alternative medicines as well as the indigenous belief system. And the guest is Mr. George KANDIERO, the president of ZINATA. COVID-19 is real, and it seems it has shaken the foundations of knowledge, medical knowledge, if I may put it that way, across the globe. What is your perspective as traditional healers?
Well, as you know, I represent quite a number of traditional practitioners. A lot has been coming in terms of their conception on COVID. But generally, as an association, we think, look, from the knowledge that we've got, from herbs that we've been using, and from the symptoms that COVID displays, we might have concussions or cocktails that might help to alleviate some of these symptoms. But my biggest worry, or my more prominent worry, is on individuals who are calling on a daily basis, hourly basis, minute basis, to say, look, I've got a cure. And I don't know what they're doing with these cures now. in their respective areas wherever they are. And I'm just thinking, look, I hope people don't listen to these claims. So look, as an association, we are saying we don't have a cure.
Why shouldn't they look seriously consider these claims? Because you say you represent the other side of medicine and medical practice.
These are just individuals. I'm not talking about practitioners. Okay. Just individuals, the ordinary people who are calling into Zinata. They feel maybe if they call to Zinata, we can then help them to...
But are they not worth listening to? Because obviously if they do recognize an institution like Zinata, it means somehow they are legitimate, don't you think?
Yes, but I'm also looking at the process where, look, COVID is real and it's there, like you said. For us to start administering whatever concussions they've got or cocktails they've got, it's a process. We need to get these things checked first. So let us deal with people who have been registered all along, who then come up with things that are credible, that are not harmful to the general populace.
Let's talk about COVID-19. Is it a spiritual menace or it is simply a biological menace?
I think it's biological. According to our assessment, we think it's just something that's like any other virus which has come up, which really needs a solution. It's not spiritual.
The debate has been raging. Madagascar apparently has a herb which deals with the symptoms of COVID-19. WHO really saying, look, we are working on medicines that we're testing and all. Are we saying that Africa, particularly, specifically Zimbabwe, does not have medicines that can actually cure COVID-19? If I'm to take your earlier assertions that we are blessed with
the word cure, I think is not appropriate in this instance. Let's talk about alleviation of symptoms.
Why is it not appropriate to use the word cure? Are we not that confident?
It gets me into a whole lot of trouble. Because truly speaking, we haven't had anyone who is certified to be a COVID victim, who we have tested whatever cocktails we've got. So for me to use the word cure, I'm not yet qualified to use it in this instance. But I can safely say we've got cocktails, a lot of them, that can assist in alleviating symptoms, yes.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of the medicines available for use to alleviate symptoms.
Generally, anything that boosts the immune system or helps with fevers and respiratory problems will assist. There are so many of them. We've got the Zumbani, we've got the Dorani, but right now we're using one which is known as Gucutane, which we've always used in boosting radically the immune system and alleviating so many systems. The reason why it's called Gucutane is because it's got 10 different herbs. It's a cocktail which have been brought together, and we are very confident that it will definitely assist anyone who is being attacked by this pandemic.
Let's come back to the global business of doing medicine. Like you said, Zimbabwe, like many other countries with a very rich biodiversity, have suffered piracy. Yes. Why are we failing to protect our species?
It's very expensive. You know, we've got a variety of so many medicinal plants that are, you know, helpful in so many different diseases, but it's very, very expensive for us to get a patent. Hence the reason why I was alluding to the financing of this sector, where if we then patent the knowledge that we've got, we then do away with this disease called piracy. Because right now it's open for anyone. Someone flies into Zim, they just pretend as if, you know, they need certain herbs for certain elements, and they, you know, give our practitioners sick money, maybe $2 for a whole bag of whatever it is in the rural areas there, and they get away with it. And they are told on the instructions, and they even go into the bush with some of these practitioners to be shown the plant from where they've extracted these herbs. So look, it's something that needs urgent attention. It really does.
That brings to the point where we then say, are your members well equipped with knowledge to protect species, because it is expected that part of any legacy, particularly medicinal legacy, has to come up with some form of secrecy, as it were. Are we saying your members are not doing likewise?
Well, they are, but I think you'll understand that someone would have been thoroughly trained if they're coming in for piracy. They come up with all these dubious means of extracting this knowledge from our members. And, unknowingly, innocently, they give away this knowledge. But we are saying, look, there are forms of patenting this knowledge that we can use. But if we have the financing to do this on behalf of our members, I think it will be good. We can even get foreign currency. It's a very big foreign currency earner in terms of exporting our herbs, because look, we're used to be using tablets, fluids, injections that are being imported for, exorbitant prices. And yet we've got the same herbs in their raw form, which can then be processed to give to our people here, and less will go into importing some of these drugs.
Join us after the break as we give you the third and final segment, as we look at the way forward when it comes to alternative medicines. Join us then. Welcome back. We are focusing on alternative medicines in the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course the way forward post-COVID. And we have the president of Zenata, Mr. George KANDIERO. Now, you were talking about some of the opportunities that actually come with alternative medicines. Has there been an extensive research that has been done probably by your organization or key partners, stakeholders, to see the worth or the value that comes with alternative medicines?
Yes, a couple of years back we had something called Gundamiti, where key players went in, the University of Zimbabwe, some insurance companies, America, Asia. We actually got a patent for that drug, which was an ARV for AIDS patients. It was scientifically tested, where they saw that, look, the viral load was actually going down and the CD4 cell count coming up quite rapidly. So I think we suffered, like I said previously, the ugly head of piracy. This is why now we put it on hold, because some key ingredients to this drug got lost along the way, and a lot of stealing went on as well. So talking about benefits, we've got a lot of people who then engaged on Gundamiti at that time, who still up to now haven't used the conventional ARVs, but are living healthy lives, where if they get tested or they get a CD4 cell count, the viral load within their bodies is so minimal that it's not harmful to their bodies anymore. So I think, yes, it's quite beneficial in the sense, we've done research on malaria, we've done research on STIs. There are certain STIs like genital herpes which cannot be treated by Western forms. We are treating that. So I think there's a lot of benefits that can come out of investing or putting in money into traditional medicines or forms of therapy.
But is there an aggregate amount that probably you can point to that needs investment?
Well, not offhand, really. I think talking to my research team and the education team, we can then come up with figures if anyone then asks for these figures.
But who really is supposed to lead? You talked about government intervening with some form of financing into the sector, but the private sector is there. Have you made any efforts to sort of bring in investment from that end?
Yes, we have. And previously we used to have donors who used to come in. And I think around 2008, 2009, most of these pulled out. I don't know, for some reasons. But we are saying, look, before that, government used to give us a grant, from the national fiscus. So we are appealing so that we get that back, because I think where the new regime came in, there are so many logistics that were lost along the way, and we need to rekindle and make sure that money does come in, because money definitely is needed, and we need to be ready next time there are pandemics like these. There was cholera the last time we did kick in, but in our own small way, where we had so many remedies to assist patients suffering from the pandemic, yes.
What has been the biggest lesson learned so far from COVID-19?
That we are not prepared, and that we need to pull up our socks. And as Zinata, look, we need to advance technologically. Right now, the social media forms way of communication. We need, like some of our members who are in the rural areas, the remote areas, we need to equip them with apparatus such as cell phones that can go on Facebook and things like that. But hasten to mention, my education department has done very well. They have gone online. They're doing lessons even with their students who are abroad right now as we speak. So I think more has to be done in that respect, and we need to have products ready or remedies ready, in cases like these, which can be pre-tested before any pandemic comes, because now is not the time to do experiments. We need to always be ready for such disaster.
And on a general note, Mr. Kandiero, Zimbabwe has been reeling from debilitating effects of sanctions. The economy has been having a stop-start sort of arrangement, and sometimes some people wonder whether it is a spiritual issue. As Zenata, maybe what are some of the remedies to actually boost this economy as we wrap up?
Besides just boosting the economy generally, I think we should participate more. Look, we are a spiritual country, and from the days of the Liberation War, we are known to be spiritual people who consult before we engage in anything. If a problem arises, we do consult as well. Tinopira. So I think more of that needs to be done. We used to have ceremonies for the rainmaking, for thanking the ancestors. I think all those need to come back in full force, where a national event needs to happen, which involves all key players, so that even these wars that we're going through right now, we need to sit down as a people, as a nation, and spiritually or from a traditional perspective, go and seek answers to the ancestors, and even give them the problems that we've got at hand, so that spiritually they also intervene.
Mr. George Kandiero, thank you so much for finding time to come through to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Our guest this week was Mr. George Kandiero, the president of the Zimbabwean National Traditional Healers Association, ZINATA, as we're focusing on alternative medicines as well as an understanding of the indigenous belief system in Zimbabwe. We've come to the end of the program. Join us again next time. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga. It is pleasant viewing.